One time in India, there lived an old soldier who was extremely poor. When he died, his son found 6 silver rupees in the pocket of his old threadbare uniform and nothing more. He gave 3 coins to his mother and spent them very carefully. "Wait for me to return. I am going into the world to seek my fortune, and when I return we shall have more rupees than we can ever spend," he said. "Go if you must," said his mother, "but do one thing, Beta. Don't get eaten by any wild animals." The boy hugged his mother and said, "Don't worry. I don't intend to be a snack for anyone." And he set off down the path which led through the forest. After he had tramped 2 or 3 miles, he met a tigress who was sitting and blocking his way. The tigress held up her paw like a kitten and said, "Good lad, if you will take out this thorn from my paw, I shall be forever grateful." The boy backed off, saying, "No, ask somebody else. I'm on my way to seek my fortune, and I promised my old mother that I wouldn't get eaten by any wild animals." "But I'm not hungry. I'm in pain," pleaded the tiger. "All the same," said the boy, "if I begin to pull out the thorn, it will hurt you even more, and you shall kill me with one pat of your paw." "No, no," cried the tigress. "I will turn my face to this tree, and when the pain comes, I will pat the tree." The soldier's son had a kind heart, and he did not like to see an animal suffer, so he agreed to do as the tigress asked. He pulled out the thorn. The pain in the tigress's paw was so sharp that she slapped the trunk of the tree, splitting it into pieces. A moment or two later, a little smile of relief appeared on the lips of the tigress. She purred and rubbed her side against the boy, just like a little kitty cat. "Thank you. You are a good boy, well worthy of your father and your mother. I have a reward for you. Look behind that clump of vines and you will find a box. Take it, but do not open it until you have walked 9 miles. And the grateful tigress was not lying, because the boy found the box with orange and black stripes on it behind the vines, where she had said it would be. As he picked it up and examined the little lock and key on the side, the tigress reminded him, "But remember this one thing, don't open it until you have gone 9 miles. Now, off you go." And the soldier's son waved goodbye and marched on through the forest, all the while keeping a keen lookout for wild animals. Before he had gone too far, the stripy box started to feel heavier. "That's strange," thought the boy. "I'm not tired, and I'm in the best of spirits, but I'm sure this box was easier to carry to begin with." On he went, and the box grew heavier and harder to carry, until eventually, in a fit of annoyance, he exclaimed, "That tigress was a witch! This box is some sort of magical trick!" And he flung it as hard as he could against a tree. The lid flew off, and much to his surprise, he saw a little man spring out and start running around in circles, waving his hands in the air while making a noise like buzz. The little man was no higher than a pen, and he had a tiny little turban on his head. "What's going on here?" cried the boy. "Who are you? How did you get in there? And what's all this noise about?" The little man stood on his head and whistled through his nose. Then he jumped up, caught hold of the boy's finger, and bobbed up and down. "Hello, hello, I'm Sabaz the soldier. Thank you very much for letting me out of that box. You're a fine boy, a very fine boy indeed." The little soldier danced around the boy's hand and capered up and down his arm, finally perching himself on the boy's shoulder. "Well," said the boy, "I suppose it's nice to be out of that box, but what good are you? I'm just a poor boy. I have nothing but a handful of coins and a promise to keep." "A promise is a promise," said Sabaz the soldier. "What was your promise?" "I promised my mother that I'd come back with more rupees than we could ever spend," said the boy. "Well then, that's what we shall do," said Sabaz. "You take me to the nearest village and we'll buy as much as we can carry in the way of food. Then we'll go to the palace and get work there, and maybe the king will give you a bag of gold and a beautiful princess as well." The boy couldn't believe his ears, but he didn't argue. He took the soldier to the village and filled his pockets with vegetables, fruit, and sweetmeats. Then they went to the palace. "I want work," said the boy to the king, who just happened to be standing at the gate of the palace. "Work? What can you do?" asked the king. "Anything you want me to do," said the boy. "I can play the flute and I can dance, and I can juggle." The king looked at him and thought for a moment. "Very well," he said. "But I must warn you, we have a monster here, and he demands the sacrifice of a beautiful maiden every month. Can you juggle with fire?" "I'll juggle with anything you like," said the boy. I'm not afraid of a monster." And so it came to pass that the boy got a job in the palace. And every night, the boy juggled with fire, and the monster went to sleep. The princess was so grateful that she gave the boy a beautiful golden cloak. "I don't want your golden cloak," said the boy. "All I want is to be the best juggler in the world." "You are," said the princess. "You are already the best juggler in the world." "No," said the boy. "I'm not the best juggler in the world. I'm only the best juggler in the palace." "Oh," said the princess. "Well, why don't you go out into the world and find out who is the best juggler in the world?" And that's exactly what the boy did. But he took Sabaz the soldier with him, and the little soldier carried the food in his turban. "We mustn't starve," said Sabaz. "It's bad for the nerves." "But Sabaz," said the boy, "there's plenty of food in the villages." "No," said Sabaz, "but the food in my turban is the best food in the world." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a wide river. There was a monster in the river, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the river, I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz jumped into the river, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a high mountain. There was a monster in the mountain, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the mountain. I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz climbed up the mountain, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a dark forest. There was a monster in the forest, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the forest. I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz went into the forest, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a wide plain. There was a monster in the plain, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the plain. I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz jumped onto the plain, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a narrow path. There was a monster on the path, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the path. I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz jumped onto the path, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a wide road. There was a monster on the road, and the monster said, "I am the monster of the road. I shall eat you." But the boy and Sabaz jumped onto the road, and the boy juggled with fire. And the monster said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not eat you." And so the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a tall tower. There was a princess in the tower, and the princess said, "I am the princess of the tower. I shall marry you." But the boy and Sabaz went into the tower, and the boy juggled with fire. And the princess said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall not marry you." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a golden castle. There was a king in the castle, and the king said, "I am the king of the castle. I shall give you a bag of gold." But the boy and Sabaz went into the castle, and the boy juggled with fire. And the king said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall give you a bag of gold." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a bright light. There was a genie in the light, and the genie said, "I am the genie of the light. I shall grant you 3 wishes." But the boy and Sabaz went into the light, and the boy juggled with fire. And the genie said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall grant you 3 wishes." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a quiet garden. There was a tree in the garden, and the tree said, "I am the tree of the garden. I shall give you a magic fruit." But the boy and Sabaz went into the garden, and the boy juggled with fire. And the tree said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall give you a magic fruit." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a peaceful meadow. There was a flower in the meadow, and the flower said, "I am the flower of the meadow. I shall give you a secret." But the boy and Sabaz went into the meadow, and the boy juggled with fire. And the flower said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall give you a secret." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a quiet village. There was a wise old man in the village, and the wise old man said, "I am the wise old man of the village. I shall give you advice." But the boy and Sabaz went into the village, and the boy juggled with fire. And the wise old man said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall give you advice." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a peaceful river. There was a boat on the river, and the boat said, "I am the boat of the river. I shall take you home." But the boy and Sabaz went onto the boat, and the boy juggled with fire. And the boat said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall take you home." And the boy and Sabaz traveled on until they came to a familiar path. There was a house on the path, and the house said, "I am the house of the path. I shall be your home." But the boy and Sabaz went into the house, and the boy juggled with fire. And the house said, "You are the best juggler in the world. I shall be your home." And so the boy and Sabaz lived happily ever after, juggling and laughing and juggling some more. And they never forgot the tigress and the promise to the boy's mother.